Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Where to Start with IBMI Monitoring, coming to you from beautiful Eden Prairie here in Minnesota in the USA. Thanks for joining us. So the question is, are you still monitoring your IBMI messages occasionally when someone calls or not at all? Or just as important, are there other things that should be checked like subsystems, jobs, job queues, out queues, and maybe even things that should probably be monitored, such as log files created by Java and web apps also running on IBMI. So are you currently reactive and you need to get to proactive? Today, we're going to show you how to get there. My name is Chuck Lisinski, and I am the Director of Technical Solutions here at Help Systems, and I'm joined today by Scott Angus, Support Manager for many of our IBMI software tools. Hi, Scott. How you doing today?
Hey, Chuck, doing great.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to dive right into this, and a lot of live demo today. Today's webinar is going to be 30 minutes in length, and you will be receiving a follow-up email with some additional collateral. Part of the reason that we're doing this presentation is some of the data that we have received from our 2020 IBMI Marketplace survey. Now, this is a survey process that we've been taking of our IBMI community for the last 6 years. And one of the trends that we see in the Marketplace survey is a decrease in the number of skilled IBMI folks out there who have knowledge of IBMI. And so that's one of the things that, of course, we work on here at Help Systems quite a bit. We've got a lot of educational material. We've got our Ops 101 for IBMI out there that you can certainly take. It's a computer-based, self-paced education on IBMI. And but what we're hearing is we have IT shops that call us and say, you know, we don't have the number of people to support this server technology. And so what we want to do is we want to put tools in the hands of our folks so that they can be more productive. They might be doing other things, but still our system is being monitored proactively. And if there is some kind of an issue, it reaches out. One of the other questions that we asked of our Marketplace survey respondents is, does your IBMI run fully attended? And less than half said yes. And even at that, I'd say, what does fully attended mean? Of course, we know that this platform is highly reliable and solid as a rock and just, sits there and does its job, but it does require some care and feeding. And you'll see today some of what you might be missing. All right, so we do have a couple questions for you guys. And like I said, if you do have any questions today, feel free to send those in to us. But we're going to ask you a quick polling question. And the polling question is, where do you go to find IBMI products? All right, so do you go and do just keyword searches via Google or something? Do you use the Global Solutions Directory, the IBM Global Solutions Directory, industry publications, user group meetings? Do you go to your business partner, maybe technology partners? Where do you go to find solutions? And Scott has been with Help Systems. How long have you been with Help Systems now?
4 years.
4 years. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been working on IBMI?
4 years.
4 years, exactly. So Scott is the perfect example, the case study for bringing in smart, intelligent, motivated folks and teaching them the platform. All right, and that's what we've been doing here at Help Systems. We've been mentoring quite a few folks who never saw IBMI in college, and in fact, I never saw an AS400 in college. And so, a lot of what we do is on-the-job training, and we've been doing that in this mid-range marketplace for a long time. All right, we're going to close the poll, and we're going to share the results. And Scott, can you see the results?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Looks
So
like
it looks
Google has
like,
it.
yeah. So top is keyword searches, right? And I totally believe that. And Scott, you more so grew up with doing things like a Google search, and you can see what the other results are. Industry publications, that's interesting, more than half, and 38% say business partners or technology partners. All right, that makes sense to me. Let's move on. So Scott, let's talk a little bit about how you've heard people monitoring their IBMI.
Oh, yes. So there's a customer right down the road. We went there. They had purchased another company that had iSeries. Actually, they had like 6 machines. And what they had to do is have 6 green screen sections up with the QSYSOPR message queue up. And they had to
Coffee.
physically, right, yeah, they had to physically click on each screen every 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
And if they didn't, an alarm would go off in the IT center.
Okay.
So then they went out and they got in touch with us, brought in console alert network, and now they were able to add 40 hours back into they estimated about 40 hours back into their IT department and add another guy and just move someone to a more critical position versus
Gotcha.
just sitting there watching screens all day.
Right. So, ultimately they had a checklist and they needed to check on each of the 6 screens, literally click on each of the 6 screens to verify that the checklist was handled. But, even if somebody clicked on the screen, it doesn't necessarily mean that some of the, the checklist or all the checklist was done properly. So checklists are very fallible. And so we've been helping companies automate their operations checklist for almost 40 years now, Scott. All right. And it all started with the robot product line, ultimately starting with automated scheduling. And of course, our scheduling product does Windows, Linux, and AIX as well, not just IBMI. And ultimately, the product line has expanded. So today we're going to focus on Robot Console, Network, and Alert, and spend most of our time here with Robot Console and Alert, and we'll fully describe what those products are. Just so you're aware, in our robot product line, we also do backup and HA with our robot HA and save products. We have a real-time performance monitoring tool in our product line called Robot Monitor, disk storage monitoring called Robot Space. Performance Navigator, if you're a Performance Navigator fan out there, that's now part of our robot product line, part of our capacity and performance analysis branch, and then spool file or report management via robot reports. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the architecture of Robot Console and where Robot Alert fits in. So Robot Console got its name from the old system console days, and it's exactly what Scott was talking about just a moment ago, where literally we had a customer down the road who was manually monitoring their system via 6 different system consoles. And this just literally happened in the last couple of years. And so that's where Robot Console got its name. Robot is the replacement for your operator watching your system console, and the original functionality was specifically around message interception and automation around QSYSOPR, QSYSMessage, or other critical message queues on your system. Additional functionality that was added over the years that we're going to actually discuss and demonstrate today: resource monitoring. So monitoring those subsystems job queues, job CPU, and so forth that probably should be monitored. Also, we can monitor log files in the integrated file system. Those log files might be populated by Java apps or web apps like WebSphere, populating log files, basically a flat file in the integrated file system. And Robot Console also has the ability to monitor various system logs like the System Security Audit Journal, QAudJourn, FTP transactions, where we'll actually put our exit program or FTP exit program on the FTP exit point, and we can also collect data from QHIST, such as your save related QHIST entries. Okay, so the product itself is fully graphical. So there's a GUI that we'll be using today during our live demonstration. There's also a web interface, and this web interface is actually fairly new. This shipped just last year, and it's part of our Insight technology, which supports a whole bunch of help systems products, not just IBMI products, but non-IBMI products as well. And that's something that, you know, we want to get on the table as well. Help systems is doing a lot of things outside of IBMI. If you want to learn about those, certainly go to our website. The other component that we're going to be demonstrating, and that is a critical part of Robot Console, is Robot Alert. Robot Alert is our conduit to the outside world. That's the tool that supports all the various protocols for communicating with the outside world. So they are two separate modules. They work together. Robot Alert actually works with all of our various robot products, whether it's scheduling, monitoring, performance, report management, backup and recovery, and so forth. So if you have Robot Alert and it's set up, you can use it with Robot Console. You can use it with all the rest of our various robot products. All right, so we've got 5 examples that we want to talk about. So it's going to be kind of a combination of message automation, message notification, system resource monitoring, user profile monitoring, answering messages from a mobile device, maybe an iPhone, Android phone. And then at the very end, we're going to talk about multi-partition monitoring. All right, so let's start out with a little bit of notification options here from Scott.
All right, Chuck, thanks. So here we got a scenario where if you answer this if you have this in a system reply list, you could run into an issue where it'd be a bad idea to do, since it would cause, if the job gets into a loop, there's potential of maxing out your disk space. So with Console, you can use a feature called Opal, and it's a little more sophisticated, and it allows you to answer it a little bit more. And just instead of just replying, it can change things on the fly using this Opal.
Exactly. So the Opal instructions inside a Robot Console allow you to be a little bit more flexible with your message response. So for instance, as Scott mentioned in a system reply list entry, you're blindly answering a message, and really nobody even knows that the message was answered. With Robot Console, what we could do is we could reply to the message. We use the enter operation to reply to the system operator message. But likewise, we can check things like how many times is the message repeated? What job sent the message? What file sent the message? So we can check the message text, we can check the variables in the message. And what you'll see today is we could send out notification that that message occurred. And likewise, as I mentioned, we support multiple protocols. You can see in this particular Opal, not in the Opal that we're going to be actually looking at live, we're actually sending out an SNMP message as well. Okay, multiple protocols. All right, let's do a little bit of a live demo, Scott. All right, what I'm going to show here is, first of all, the graphical interface. So you can see this is our Robot Console GUI, and I'm going to connect to a system called Wisdom. All right, so I'm just going to click on the connect icon. My credentials are already saved in the product, in the GUI, and so it's going to authenticate back to my Wisdom IBMI partition, and it's going to launch a couple of additional windows. All right, so this is a direct connect back to IBMI, and down below here on the left-hand side, this is called my message center. And this highlights those messages that you might be interested in. All right, so for instance, QSYSOPR has been disabled, error on disk unit. We had a job that ended abnormally. Here's a message from robot schedule that Robot Console intercepted and is now presented in the graphical interface. All right. We'll also be incorporating Robot Alert here in just a second, so you'll see that we're sending out all this notification as well via email. could obviously send various text messages as well. All right. Over on the right-hand side here, this is our list of resource monitoring. We'll discuss this more fully, but that at the top here, you see some system resources, job queues, jobs, and out queues that are not in the status that we expect them to be in. All right, so robot consoles out there checking these various system resources gives you a visual indicator that you might have an issue here in what I'll call a dashboard widget, plus we're sending out notification. All right, the robot console GUI is where, of course, all this is set up, and what we specifically want to show you is what's called a message set. A message set is the automation instruction. So I could tell a message set, you know what, when a message occurs, just always answer it with an I or a G or a C or whatever, kind of like a system reply list entry. And the advantages of doing it in Robot Console is that we absorb all the history of the message and the message activity. But we also want to send out some notification in this case. So let's look at that increased file size message. All right, CPA 5305, we've all seen it at one time or another in our career. CPA 5305, members full, and you need to reply to increment the or extend the file. So we do have the ability to enter in just an unconditional instruction here in the message set, or you can create something called an opal. Now the opal, just like in our in the presentation, we're looking at the number of times that the message repeats. We're also looking at whether or not the job that sent the message is in a table, what's called an opal table. So that's where we've listed those jobs that we're allowing the file increment to come from. All right, and so then we're going to enter an I, we're going to reply with an I, we're going to send out notification then to our programming staff. So we're going to automate the message, we're also going to send out notification. Likewise, I'm looking at a table of files. All right, I'm looking at variable 1 in the message. All right, variable 1 is the member name. So that's something else we can do in Opal. And again, I'm going to be incrementing and sending out notification to the programming staff. Now, if any of you guys are programmers, of course, testing is important. So I can send test messages. And these test messages allow you to populate the variable information in the IBM or your application messages to test various scenarios. All right, so based on the scenarios that I have in place and the file names that I'm allowing to be automated, I know that GL Post will automate some of these other file names. They won't automatically reply. They'll just bubble up and be sent out via an email notification. But I'm going to send out this one that says GL Post. So I'm actually going to send out a test message. I'm going to generate a test message. I'm going to send it to QSYSOPR. Okay. It says the message was sent. All right. So if that message was not automated, it would pop up here. All right. First of all, I did get email notification of that message. All right. But if I look at today's messages in my Robot Console message center, there it is. It says that the message was answered via a message set. And by double clicking on it, I can get some additional information. Specifically, we'll go to the reply. It says the reply was an I, and a robot answered that message within about 4 seconds. All right, so that's our first example of automating a message and also sending out an automated message reply. All right, let's go to our next example. This is resource monitoring. So Scott, let's talk a little bit about resource monitoring, and I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, let's talk about that. Basically, it's automating the operator checklist. These resources will periodically go out and check on your checklist. Then there's different types of resources, anywhere from controllers to writers. And it checks on them to make sure they're in the expected status that you set. And what'll happen when they check on it, it'll send out a message either way, if they're in the expected status or they're not. And then these message IDs, you can create message sets off of, like you just showed, and then have Opal handle it automatically for you, or you can use alert to have it send you, a text message or an email if you'd rather handle those manually in
Sure. So
certain
Scott,
situations.
take us through this particular message ID, SBS0001.
Okay, so this is a subsystem status message. It'll come out if it's not in the inspected status, and it shows that they're inactive. And then it also tells you what your expected status is. It's supposed to be active, right? And then it'll show the resource name, and down here it shows the variable, the AN5, that you can use in your OPAL. So.
All right, so what we're going to do then is we're going to demonstrate this. So this OPAL is going to take that particular variable and it's going to place it into our execute operation. It's actually going to restart the subsystem. And once again, it's also going to send us some notification, in this case, that the message got intercepted and that the subsystem was restarted. All right, so live TV, let's see if we can make this happen, Scott. All right, not only that, we're recording this, so if I mess up, it's going to be permanent. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our green screen first of all. All right, let me bring that over. And we're going to look at our subsystem status. All right, so here's our active subsystems, and here there's a subsystem called POS monitor. All right, this is maybe kind of a retail application. This is our point of sale monitor, and we're going to end this subsystem. All right, so I'm going to do an end subsystem POS monitor, and I'm going to end that immediately. All right, count to 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, my point of sale monitor is gone. It's now ended. That's bad. All right, and we're no longer processing point of sale transactions. So right here in our resource monitoring dashboard widget, so to speak, it says that the subsystem should be active, and the green check mark says it is. But we know it's not, and so as Scott mentioned, this subsystem is being checked iteratively every 5 minutes. In this case, that's how I've got this one defined. So we could wait 5 minutes, or I could force a check. All right, so I'm going to do a check status. All right, it says that the subsystem is not in the expected status. All right, and you can see that it has now been placed in our list of subsystems that aren't in the expected status. All right, so what we also have though is we have a message set, SBS 0001. All right, and that message set is going to look to see if that subsystem name is in a list of subsystems that we allow to be restarted, and then it's going to execute the start subsystem command. All right, and then it's also going to send out notification that my subsystem has been restarted. All right, so first of all, let me show you the email I just got. Success, Scott. Point of sale monitor subsystem has been restarted. All right, now because this is an iterative check, the subsystem is still showing as inactive here in our dashboard widget. And in fact, I got notified just via a message that the subsystem was not active, and that's what triggered this message set. But of course, if I go out here and check the status now, it says that the subsystem is in the expected status. And likewise, I will have a new message out here saying that the subsystem is back active. All right, guess what, Scott? We had good success there. All right, let's go to our next scenario. And this one is, how can we capture important informational messages? All right, and we have absolutely had this conversation with customers here just in the last few weeks, where one of our customers had a disk failure. Their electronic notification to IBM didn't work. And ultimately what they had was a disk failure or something like this. So the disk failure message goes out to QSYSOPR as an informational message, and nobody sees it unless you're looking at informational messages and who's doing that in their busy day. Also, you might have user profiles that get disabled. Now, Sarah Williams here shows that she's got a disabled profile, but is that important? Well, maybe not for this particular profile, but what if it's a service profile that's supporting your high availability application? If that becomes disabled, your application may not be functioning any longer. All right, so what we can do is we can intercept that message. We can make it response required, and that's our terminology, but basically we convert it into a message that looks as though it needs your attention. It will show up in the message center, and we send it out via email. All right, and you might get this message, and you might be doing what Scott likes to do and sitting out on his tracker boat in the middle of a lake, and he's got work to do, but he does not have his PC with him. All he has is his phone. So Scott, could you walk us through our two-way notification process?
Yeah, sure. So for our two-way, we need a dedicated POP3 account set up. And then basically it'll send you a message via email. And then you'll get it and you can reply. And then it'll actually send it back to the iSeries. It's actually a pretty slick process.
It is slick. It is slick. And let me show you the results of that from this morning. Let's see. Let's run a job that I know is going to have a problem. All right. So I'm going to run a job, and I'm going to do that behind the curtain. All right. So what you're going to see here is we have an inquiry message. All right. And that message is going to be sent out via email, and we're going to see that here in my email inbox. All right. And of course, it has to work through our email system. So let's give it just a minute. All right, and here it is. All right, so we've got our inquiry message saying that you need to reply. So Scott's out on his boat. He got this maybe text message first, but then he checked his email and he says, okay, I know what to do with this. I'm just going to cancel this. So all you have to do is enter a C on your reply and hit a send. Now what's going to happen is that message reply is going to go back to a dedicated POP3 account dedicated to Robot Alert. All right, Robot Alert sent this message via Robot Console. And Robot Alert is going to reach into that POP3 account on an iterative basis. All right, and I've got it set up actually pretty quick, about every minute. And it's going to look for a message reply that matches the original message text. And it's going to take that first character of the body of the reply, and it's going to populate the reply. And just in the interest of time, I did that earlier today, and what you'll see here in your message history is alert sent the reply. All right, so I've got the message, and the reply in this case took about a total of 2 minutes to accomplish. Chuck replied to the message, and he replied with a D just to do a program dump. All right. All right, so we do have other ways for managing messages. We also have a web interface that I mentioned called Insight, and I'd like to give you a quick look at that. Okay, so this is Robot Console for Insight. This is a browser interface, and this Insight technology actually supports multiple products from Help Systems, PowerTech Security, Robot Schedule, Robot Network, and so forth. And so what you're looking at here is the summary of what's going on with Robot Console. So this is basically a Robot Console summary. Here's a dashboard showing message status for two systems, Academy and Wisdom. So I've got outstanding messages on both systems. All right, some of these messages should look familiar. They were in our message center here in the GUI. Likewise, resource status. All right, on my Wisdom and Academy system, my Academy system only has one issue. And likewise, because this is a web interface, of course, I could have multiple tabs. Here's Robot Schedule, Job Monitoring, Robot Schedule, Job Flow. And likewise, If I was in more of a mobile tablet based phone interface, we'll let the messages populate here. All right, I could have something like this. All right, it might be more of a tablet size representation of my data. All right. And finally, what I'd like to show is what's called robot network. All right, robot network is another layer that you can put across the top of your robot console infrastructure. So robot console is working across all your IBMI partitions, and then robot network acts as sort of the backbone to consolidate all that information into a single interface. And the interface, it both has a GUI as well as it works in our web interface, our Insight web interface. All right. And I do want to give you just a quick look at that, just so you see what the possibilities are. So I'm going to connect to my Wisdom host partition. That's the central partition that acts as the consolidator for all of my robot console monitoring. This is called the Map Center. And this shows my Wisdom and Aussie and Academy systems and which ones are green and which ones are red and which ones aren't connected. That's the red lines. And so for instance, I can see here on my Academy system, I got 37 outstanding issues. I got 115 on Wisdom. And I'm just gonna dive into my Wisdom system. And one of the things I wanna point out is this product column. So the robot network tool acts as the consolidator for multiple robot products. All right, so I'm getting information from robot schedule, from robot monitor, from robot save, from console. All right, even our trapper tool. So ultimately, this acts as the consolidator for all your message activity that need operator attention. Likewise, robot schedule job information that needs attention, robot space information, robot monitor information, all that's consolidated in a multi-partition environment. Very cool technology if you are in a multi-partition environment. In fact, the customer that we started out with discussing at the first part of this webinar uses this exact technology. All right, so we have an offer for you. We do something called a technology update. We do about probably 600 of these a year, and that's where we have a discussion with our IBMI or non-IBMI clients, and we talk about what Help Systems is up to. We get to know you a little bit better in terms of what you guys are up to in terms of projects and priorities. And hopefully we're going to see some areas where we overlap. And likewise, you're going to learn maybe where there are technologies that can help support what you're doing. All right. So as mentioned, Help Systems has diversified quite a bit. About half of our business is IBMI, about half is other Windows, Linux, and AIX software solutions and professional services. But we still focus a lot on IBMI, and we are moving these technologies forward. We even developed some tools for IBM. So if you may not be aware, but Help Systems is also the developers of BRMS, Power HA, Rational Developer. But likewise on IBMI, backup and HA, document management, cybersecurity solutions, monitoring like we talked today, BI, capacity planning, and automation. That's all part of what we do. All right, so we've gone a little bit over. I hope you have just a moment though to answer our polling question. The polling question is, and let's get the right polling question. Here we go. How can we help you? Possibly arrange a robot console demo. Maybe you'd like to jump into a trial, free 30-day trial. If you'd like to connect with me or one of my partners to do a technology update, love to do those. Our customers find those to be very educational. And maybe you'd just like to learn more about monitoring. All right, feel free to pick your response. And in the meantime, I'm gonna check for questions. Scott, do we have any questions?
Questions.
Probably have time for one or two.
Okay. How long does the initial setup of console and alert take?
You know, I'm gonna say literally about 2 hours. There's a fair number of turnkey functions that are built into the tool. So literally with a few clicks, you'll be up and running, at the very least monitoring QSYSOPR. I think we allocate about 8 hours for professional services if you do want our assistance. And Scott, I know you've got some folks who help out with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And here's one other question, that web interface. Is the web interface an additional license product? And the answer is no, it's actually included with your license. So if you're licensed to any of our supported products within Insight, like Console, Schedule, Exit Point Manager, and so forth, the Insight tool is included for free. All right, so we've gone a couple minutes over. I appreciate your attention today. I hope you have a great day. And Scott, thanks for helping out. Everybody, appreciate your time.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.